The American dream as we know it is dead. There is no reviving the American dream.
Here's why people don't believe in the American dream anymore.
The American dream is not dead, so much as it's an extreme luxury in many parts of the country that can now cost as much as $10 million to afford.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the American dream and how it has become so out of reach for so many people. We've brushed over this topic in my videos talking about the cost of living, but I found a very good video from another YouTuber that I wanted to go over. If you watch my videos, you've probably seen them before. The channel's HowMoneyWorks. If you haven't, I'd definitely go check them out, but we do have some other examples to go along with this, along with some of your comments from previous videos. So if you want to be featured on a future video, leave it in the comments down below. But we're just going to jump right into this.
How much money would you need to buy the American dream? Not how much would you need to make in order to afford the repayments on the American dream. How much would you need to buy the house, the 2 cars, the family, and a basic vacation every year? I know it's not going to blow your mind to find out that these supposedly vital ingredients to a good life have gotten kind of expensive, but it has reached a tipping point. The American dream is not dead, so much as it's an extreme luxury in many parts of the country that can now cost as much as $10 million to afford. That's more than most of us will ever earn in our lifetimes before taxes, interest payments, and basic essentials like food. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but holding on to the traditional financial wisdom of what you ought to have in life is now permanently out of reach for most people. And as more Americans realize this, it's fundamentally reshaping our economy.
I mean, throwing out those kinds of numbers right off the rip, $10 million now, just to be able to live the American dream, that would be something that I think as a kid, $10 million, you would be ultra wealthy, tons of mansions and cars, and you could basically buy whatever you want. But I guess now it's just the cost of having the family and the dog and the white picket fence with the cars.
Whether or not to have children, it's a topic these young minds discuss and contemplate.
Aaron, his wife Celia, and their 2 children have lived in this parking lot outside of Seattle for the past 9 months.
Workers carry $6,000 of credit card debt, while the average American has almost $8,000 worth.
This household configuration of dual income partners living alone without children is on the rise.
So, there are 3 points to this video that are each obvious by themselves, but get really interesting or worrying when you think about them all together. The first point is that the typical American dream has gone from an affordable lifestyle that even someone with a basic job could afford to live to an extreme luxury that even professional dual-income households are struggling to keep up with. The second point is that alternative lifestyles that used to be considered extremely luxurious have become way more affordable than a cookie-cutter suburban home with a 30-year mortgage. And the third point is what happens when people are making the logical choice and picking the better life for themselves.
So it's not really a surprise why you see so many different lifestyles, especially on social media now. I know a lot of it, especially when we're talking about the influencers, just show the highlights and the positives for the digital nomads, the RV life, being able to work from their laptop anywhere in the country or the world, because from what we'll see later, the traditional life of settling down and buying a house is just so out of reach that in many cases it will be cheaper to just travel around and live in a different country.
I am calling it the American dream because it looks better in the title of a YouTube video. But let's be honest, the story is the same around the world, and some places have it even worse than us. According to data from the US Fed and the US Census Bureau compiled in the Case-Shiller Index, the average cost of a home in the US is now more than 7.6 times median combined household incomes. That's now significantly higher than it was in the lead up to the global financial crisis, an economic meltdown enabled by housing speculation. If you think that's bad, spare a thought for the UK, which has lower wages but similarly priced homes, or Canadians, who, according to data compiled by Financial Samurai, have on average 10% less disposable income but live in houses 75% more expensive. New mortgage rates are also at the highest point they have been since the year 2000, when home prices were only 4 times household income.
And that's why when I cover these topics, most of the time I talk about the entire world, not just America, because even with my analytics seeing that a majority of people are from the US, I could find clips from all over the world talking about the exact same problems happening wherever they are. Along with reading your comments with your experiences from wherever you live, it really does show that this problem is happening globally.
The average person, even if they have a full-time working partner, cannot reasonably afford to purchase an average home at current prices with current interest rates without paying more than half of their before-tax income in interest. That's before principal repayments on the loan, and before income tax. In reality, the average bank wouldn't even write this mortgage because it would be financially irresponsible. Now, housing is expensive. You don't need me to tell you that. But every other part of the American dream has somehow become even more expensive. The cost of a car, a basic college degree, insurance, and medical care have all outpaced inflation, which is also at decade highs. The only way to keep up with these prices is to be benefiting from them. Every chart related to your personal finances is up and to the left. But investment asset classes are up even more. The average house is now earning more than the average American in capital gains that are taxed more favorably, and the stock market continues to break new records.
Now, even with the hit in the market that we've seen over the past couple months, just take a look at the charts and see how quickly it has jumped up. Just in the past 5 years, not even talking about a time around 2010, if you had a lot of your money in the market before COVID happened, then you are in a much better place than a majority of people in the country right now. And you probably could pay for a single family house that's over $400,000 on average in today's world. But most people are not like that, living paycheck to paycheck just to survive.
Adjusted for inflation, household incomes have increased by 20% since 2005, but the Nasdaq is up by 340%. People who have had time to amass assets or children who are lucky enough to open an account with the First National Bank of mommy and daddy are the only people left who can afford the trappings of the middle class. But this isn't yet another video telling you how financially f***ed you are. I actually have good news, which is that more young Americans than ever are opting out of the American dream, as the price to buy a rundown family home can buy them a much better lifestyle by just rejecting traditions. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why it might be time to let go of the American dream. There's one expense that has grown faster than all others, so much that it has become a status symbol even though it's technically free, and that's having children. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the inflation-adjusted cost of raising a child has increased by more than 50% since 2000, and some of the biggest expenses are now 250% of what they were 24 years ago.
And I know in this video he's trying to spin it and have a positive outlook, saying that you could travel around and work online instead of having the traditional dream and buying a house and settling down. But at least with what I want, I do want that traditional lifestyle. I'd like to have kids in a house, not because it's apparently a luxury status symbol to have a couple kids now, but just to have a normal, quiet life. I've been to a couple places outside of the country, and of course it is fun, but again, at least for me, it's not something that I'd want to do my entire life, like a digital nomad. So for my option to have the American dream, I guess costs about $10 million now, just to have that simple lifestyle, apparently.
This data was collected for husband and wife families, so it averages out the cost of one partner needing to take time off work to look after children. The reason this is happening is because less people are having children. Young working professionals earn too much to be eligible for most child subsidies, but too little to really afford to raise children. The only people that can afford to have children are very wealthy people who don't care about spending thousands of dollars a year on the best preschools and paraphernalia for their child. This means that only expensive, high-end services catering to the children of affluent families can count on a reliable stream of business, so the expensive options are the only ones that last in the market. There is also a large group of people with lower incomes that still have a lot of children, but according to the US Census Bureau, that's partially why America has higher rates of child poverty than elder poverty. A study by the Tax Foundation found that married couples with children were the fastest shrinking group in middle-income percentiles because people couldn't afford to raise children.
I mean, we've seen examples on this channel when we talk about debt, how much money it would be to just have a child in daycare, one single child. It could be thousands of dollars per month. It really does depend on where you live in the country and how many kids you have to look after at a daycare, because both of you have to work. Sometimes it is literally cheaper to quit your full-time job compared to having your kids in a daycare throughout the day. I mean, it is absolutely insane. And that's much easier said than done. It's not like it's an easy decision, oh, I'll just stay home. Most of the time, both incomes are needed just to be able to pay the bills. The mortgage or rent, any of the car payments, the insurance for all of it, utility bills, the grocery prices, I mean, all different things we've gone over on this channel.
People want to have children, they just can't afford to. Because even though it was something that people just assumed they were going to do in previous generations, it became one of the most expensive luxuries in our modern world. But just as everything you need to live a normal life is becoming prohibitively expensive for normal people, previously luxurious alternatives are becoming much cheaper. Remote work has allowed a lot of young people to get a job or sometimes multiple jobs at the same time and then do them from anywhere in the world. Traveling the world full-time or living in a cheap but exotic destination was the reserve of the jet-set class just a few years ago. But now almost anybody can do it while saving more money than they can get in a major city. These so-called digital nomads have gone from a small niche group to a major component of the workforce in less than a decade. A survey conducted by the workforce intelligence firm MBO Partners and published by the Harvard Business Review found that 17.3 million American workers now describe themselves as digital nomads, representing a 150% increase since 2019 alone.
I do understand that this has become much more common, especially since COVID and everybody working from home, but those types of jobs have been pulled back pretty heavily over the past few years by almost any company you could think of for many different reasons. So maybe you were able to live that kind of lifestyle for the past few years, but out of nowhere the company says, you have to be back in the office 5 days a week, most of the time in some sort of city, within a couple weeks or even a couple days, or you'll be fired. So you have to completely uproot your life again, go back to a very expensive city, and all of those costs go through the roof again.
In their research, the team for HBR found that the number one reason that people were pursuing this unrooted lifestyle was because they couldn't afford a more typical way of life. And if they were going to be uncomfortable both physically and financially, they would rather be uncomfortable while seeing the world. The sacrifices that you need to make to hit the road are much smaller than they used to be too. Remote jobs are still hard to land, but they are not nearly as hard to find as they used to be. Some people in remote work heavy fields like technology, data, or media creation have even created forums about doing multiple full-time jobs at the same time to make several full-time incomes. Living in a different country has also become a lot easier. Some popular centers with budget-conscious digital nomads are safer, cleaner, and have better amenities than American cities that are unaffordable. Some countries are so welcoming to young remote workers that they have even started offering digital nomad visas to simplify the legal and tax considerations of working in another country. Even if you feel lonely and want to see your friends and family frequently, saving $2,000 a month on rent buys a lot of plane tickets on budget carriers, since airline tickets are another thing that have noticeably become cheaper while everything else is getting more expensive.
Even with the positives of course, saving money and being able to travel, it's not like everybody's able to do this. Especially if you work in the tech field right now, it has become increasingly volatile. Mass layoffs from companies are happening all the time and could grind your life to a halt when you're on the other side of the globe. I think another one of these issues that will happen over time is that these places that are very welcoming to digital nomads, when they typically have more expensive currency, USD, euros, pounds, will slowly make all of those cheap costing places very expensive.
Now, not everybody priced out of living a normal life is pursuing such an adventurous alternative. There are some people that have been able to make the best of a bad situation, but there are far more young people across the world who are just giving up. In a time when the average American can't afford an unexpected $1,000 expense, luxury good companies selling $5,000 handbags or $10,000 watches are making record profits. This is because of a phenomenon known as doom spending. If you have worked hard in school, landed a good job, worked for 10 years, and are no closer to owning a home of your own, it's reasonable to want to see some kind of reward for all of your hard work. If you can't afford a sensible purchase to treat yourself, you could at least buy something that makes it look like you have some kind of financial stability in your life. It's not logical, but these companies don't make billions of dollars selling $2,000 shoes by appealing to logic. Doom spending is all a part of a bigger trend of people just giving up.
Now, we might see a difference in the sentiment with the luxury market if you've seen anything on social media over the past week or so. The same luxury brands that people buy to show off that they have a $2,000 handbag or whatever ends up being made in China and not all of these special luxury places, and the material, is definitely pretty lackluster for the MSRP you're paying. So it's all the same cheap crap at the end of the day, but people still love to show it off even though they can't afford a traditional lifestyle.
In countries like China, where competition for housing and other essentials is even worse than here in America, there is a lying down movement. Young people are not going to work or school and are lying flat all day playing video games and relaxing. The trend was such a threat to the country that the government banned the term on all social media. And that might be the most important part of the dying American dream. What happens when everybody gives up on it? The American dream only works if most people believe in it to keep the system going. Maybe the boomers had it coming as they voted for policies that benefited them above their children, and now their children don't want to keep their system going. But I am sorry to tell you that most boomers are going to be dead before this really becomes a problem. It's hard for Americans to stop paying tax if they go and work in a different country, because we are one of the only countries in the world that still taxes its citizens even if they live abroad. But for other countries, losing workers who are moving elsewhere for a better life has already become a major drain on the systems that are funding their aging populations. Even if young Americans are trapped by Uncle Sam, they may not pay him as much.
I think we all know from the types of clips that we've seen on this channel that the government is going to get their tax dollars one way or another. It doesn't matter if you live here or you live abroad, they might be slow moving to get literally anything done. From all the PPP loans to unemployment, the welfare fraud we've seen. People were signing up to get free money committing fraud 5 years ago, and we're still finding people getting charged to this day. They honestly will not stop.
To be comfortable in a city like San Francisco, where the median house price is almost $1.3 million according to Zillow, experts estimate that you need an income of around $300,000 to live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle, if it could be called that. To sustainably fund that level of income in retirement, you would need invested assets of around $8 million outside your primary residence. The federal tax and FICA on that income for a single filer is $87,000 combined. But people live in San Francisco because they can earn that much in the area. But more people in these high-end jobs are willing to take a pay cut to work remotely in cheaper American cities, or a cheaper country. Google cut some of its workers' pay by 25%, and some of its workers were happy to accept it because they could work from somewhere that was 4 times cheaper. The federal tax and FICA on a salary of $225,000 is only $59,000. Which means after state taxes, this remote worker would only be really taking home $35,000 less every year. But the tax system misses out on about the same amount. But when even these workers at the very top end of the labor market can't earn enough with their work to catch up to other people, you can't really blame them for giving up on the American dream. But all of this might just be part of a natural cycle that has been happening for hundreds of years.
We could take a look at some of the comments from this video. People can't afford to have children or own homes, but the government, the NASDAQ, and GDP are at all-time highs. We're winning, everyone. The economy's doing great. And how long have we heard that? Only after getting my master's in computer science was I able to afford the same 3-bedroom apartment that my single mom could buy without a degree 25 years ago. More and more people might face a tough time in retirement. I've gone over that a lot. Low-paying jobs, inflation, and high rents make it hard to save. Find it tough to own a home too, leaving them without a place to retire. 57 years old, started working at 14, fell for the dignity of hard work BS, generated enormous profits for decades for employers, rewarded with stagnant wages, slash benefits, and a body that is scarred by dozens of injuries, especially now when people are talking about going into trades because those corporate 9-to-5 cushy cubicle jobs are not nearly as safe as they were a few years ago, but a physical labor type of job your entire life will clearly do a number on your body. Little wonder why young people are not falling for the working hero mantra. When literally giving life has become a luxury, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. I remember hearing about this a long time ago in places like Japan and Korea having this problem, and now it just seems to be spreading like wildfire. We have a comment from one of you guys: gave up on family or a home as a dream. New American dream is being able to save for retirement so you don't die on the floor working at a Walmart. And even though this comment is pretty depressing, it's not uncommon to see. People are talking about their only retirement being able to live in their car one day because they won't be able to afford rent or a house at all, and it really only seems to be getting worse.
The American dream as we know it is dead. There is no reviving the American dream. These 4 things destroyed the American dream for the new generation. Number 1, housing prices. You now need $120,000 to $150,000 in salary to comfortably afford the average house in this country. There's so many people under 40 who cannot afford that, so they're forced to rent. And when you have so many people renting, the rent price continues to rise. And you have an entire generation spending 30, 40, 50% of their income on rent, and you wonder why they're broke. And if they're thinking about buying a house and saving up $80,000 to $100,000, that seems impossible. But then if you want to have a kid or 2 or 3, that's going to cost you $2,000 to $3,000 in daycare. And then the last thing is college. They say the average person in this country has about $40,000 in debt in college, and kids are getting out of school at 23, 24 years old, and they're stuck with a $600 monthly payment for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. When millennials graduated college, we could get a 1-bedroom apartment by ourselves for $600, and these Gen Z kids are now spending $600 a month just on their college. This is why the American dream has died, and why we need to come up with a new American dream and redefine the American dream.
I mean, I don't really know how that's going to change. Maybe you could say the change in thought process when it comes to college could make it a little bit better in the future, because there's so many 20 to 30-year-olds talking about their experiences online right now, saying that they are in 40, 50, $100,000+ in student debt when they can't find a job. So all of these 16 and 17-year-olds right now are seeing these types of videos on social media and trying to find other options, because there's no guarantee that a diploma, a piece of paper saying that you passed and you got your degree, will now land you a six-figure job and you'll be able to pay for all of this. But the other kind of stuff, the housing prices, rental prices, daycare, only ever seems to go up long term. Maybe it'll have a spike very quickly like it did during COVID with housing and renting, but it'd be much harder for it to consistently go down in price. Now, on the flip side, with the doom spending in the luxury market, we have another comment from one of you guys. The main issue is that people's idea of the American dream has shifted because of social media. People want a way nicer lifestyle, bigger house, flashier car, and more extravagant vacations. What the average person wants to achieve now is different from what the American dream was, and I do understand that. When these luxury brands, whether it's a vehicle or any of the clothing or going out to expensive restaurants, were supposed to be for the ultra rich, now most of the people who are middle to maybe middle upper class are also trying to do it, and it's really hurting them financially. I mean, we have a clip right here.
This housing market is so frustrating. Let me paint a better picture for you. I'm going on 30. I finally found a six-figure career, and me and my girlfriend are considering something like this. It's got the pool. We can have our friends and family come over for pool parties and holidays. It has the fenced-in backyard, so our pup can finally have the land that they deserve. But then this happened. $633,000 for this house, when in 2011, this home sold for $315,000. This home at $633,000 with an 8% rate gives you a payment of $4,500. But in 2011, with a 4% interest rate, you would have had a payment of $1,600. So to afford this home today, you need a household income of $260,000. But back in 2011, you needed a household income of $85,000. That is reasonable. $260,000, most people will never see that kind of household income.
All right, I don't disagree with how crazy the payments have gotten. If you look at all on Zillow or Realtor or any of those sites and see the past history of houses being sold, it is very common to see it just double in price. Along with the rates, you have to pay way more money per month right now. But did you look at that house? I know it's not technically a mansion. I think mansions have to be like 7,000 or 8,000 square feet, but that was a huge house, 3,200 square feet with a pool. He didn't say it in the video, but even with starting a family, it looked like all they really had was a small dog. You probably don't need to spend the $600,000+ when it's just the two of you at the time. So I do understand the inflation with the American dream. Now everybody wants a massive house and several cars, the SUV, maybe a fun car with the in-ground pool and going on vacations all the time. There's definitely a middle ground because so much of it is completely out of reach. Super, super expensive. But then you have some people trying to live their American dream lives like they're one of the Kardashians and think they have way more money than they actually do. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.